So hello everyone. I am Dr. Ruchi Saxena, as I was just introduced, and I was just introduced. I am a doctor by profession. So you would all be wondering what's a doctor doing in an Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering Association. But yeah, I'm here, and I'm absolutely glad to be invited to this forum because there are a lot of things that I would like to share with you about my journey, my experiences, my story, and what am I doing. We already had heard from the other speakers about how challenging the entrepreneurship and make it more meaningful. So my evolution has been a curiosity-driven evolution. I graduated as a doctor and I started working in clinics earlier. But the curiosity of trying to understand how systems work for corporates, or when you have lots of patients to be treated, how did that happen? And that curiosity took me into another corporate healthcare sector where I started working as an employee. And again, the curiosity took me into learning more about the management there and about technology. I was in charge of developing clinical management systems and monitoring the healthcare quality and treatment outcomes. And I was working in very close connections with the software industry. And again, the curiosity took me into understanding that no matter how much you do about the quality, there is something else that's in the core, and that's the process excellence. So I learned about process excellence, Lean Six Sigma. I started auditing as a Lean Six Sigma auditor as well as a quality auditor with the British Standards Institution, and that's how I started working with different healthcare organizations, started training them into systems and processes and disaster risk reduction. One of those places that I had been to as a consultant for disaster risk reduction, that's where it changed my life. And I realized that just working as an external consultant doesn't work. You really need to get into the depth of everything to really start making a change. And that's where my entrepreneurship journey began. This is the place. Now, this place is in the far west of Nepal. I visited there to build systems for the pre-hospital medicine. And this is what I had witnessed. So what do you think this would be? Any idea? You see four people and a stretcher, and you see somebody covered with a blanket. Now, is that a dead body? Is that a living human being? Surprisingly, this is a living human being, and I inquired. So they had walked for 5 hours, trekked down the mountain to reach this particular health center that I was auditing. Now, this I realized is a fact for many of the places in Nepal. And also I realized that the challenge to reach the nearest healthcare center is not just for India or Nepal, it's for most of the countries in the world. I was born and brought up in Mumbai, so I was pretty fortunate to have the medical stores and the nursing homes and the clinics and hospitals just uh, at a stone's throw. But that is not a fact for most of the populations of the world, and that's kind of motivated me or propelled me into working on technology solutions. I was already on the board of a remote healthcare monitoring company, and the biggest challenge that we faced over there was no matter how great systems you make in the remote healthcare monitoring system, delivering the medicines was still a challenge. For example, Jaisalmer. So a patient from Jaisalmer would contact a doctor in Jaipur. All the diagnosis happens online. The examination happens, blood tests are taken, everything is done online. But when you have to deliver the medicine, how do you do that? Because ultimately, the local medical store in that place would still not be stocked with the medicines. Then again, the drones was the answer. Now, let me tell you, when I passed out my 12th standard, I did receive an admission in electrical engineering, but the only engineering I was interested in was aeronautical engineering. And the reason was I wanted to make flying cars. If it's aeronautical, yes, otherwise, no other engineering. But you see how destiny works? It brings back to you the question that you had left behind in your life. And that's where I started working on drones. Now, initially, when I started working on drones, all I needed was one drone, one manufacturer, so that I could go to these health centers or to the municipalities or to the district magistrate or somebody to show them that this is what we can do, this is what drones can do. And according to my understanding, the average distance, or most of the places which had been, especially in even in India, places like Nandurbar or in Himachal or wherever, you have this average distance of at least 50 kilometers, 50 to 90 kilometers. Nandurbar, I remember the nearest blood bank was at 92 kilometers. If you don't have a drone which covers that distance, it just doesn't make sense. So I was taken around a ride. So somebody met me and showed me a drone and said that this can travel for 5 kilometers. I'm like, boss, this won't work for my use case. I need at least 35 kilometers. So this is how the journey started, and not this manufacturer, not that manufacturer. Somebody would definitely make it for me, and somebody would be ready to pay for that. And so figuring out these questions, I realized this is not the problem of a drone. This is the problem of an entire ecosystem. And now when you imagine that, let's say you have drone ports in every district. Let's say you're working with 100 districts. And let's say you need at least 5 people to be working on each district. You need minimum 500 people to be actively working with drones who know everything about drone not manufacturing, but maintenance and electronics and launch and tracking and tracing. I'm like, oh my God, now where do I get 500 people from? Again, I realized that this is not just about the drones. Even if somebody is able to give me the right kind of drone, I would still have other things to figure out. So unless I have everything figured out, I cannot really send a proposal to anybody. That's where my organization Caerobotics started, and I'm like, this has to be done in an organizational manner. And Caerobotics has 3 words in it: care, aerial, and robotics. It's very difficult to pronounce by somebody, but I really believe in this name, so I'm not changing it easily. And somewhere along my journey, I came across Flying Labs. Now, Flying Labs is an organization that I've been tracking even before they were Flying Labs. They were called Humanitarian UAV Network, and I got in touch with them through a common reason that I was trying to look for solutions for the flood which had happened in Kerala, and they were looking also for somebody who could do that for in Kerala. And this is how we connected, and then we started India Flying Labs. Now, Flying Labs is all across the world in 30 countries. I take care of the India Flying Labs. And over the last 2 years, this is, before I go on to our network, let me just show you this so that you understand what Flying Labs is and what exactly we do. Is the YouTube visible? Audible?
No, ma'am, it's not audible.
It's not audible. Do you know how can I make it audible?
You can share your screen, probably.
Okay. So if I share my full screen, right?
Yeah.
Now?
Yes, working.
Now, can you see my PowerPoint again? Is my
Yes.
PowerPoint visible? Yes, thank you. So you see, that is the power of local. And when you belong to a community like this, you no longer feel lonely. You feel connected with a common cause, with a lot of other people, a lot of other professionals all around the world. And now within India itself, we are able to grow India Flying Labs into an open collaborative network of professionals and organizations who are coming together to solve social problems using drones and drone-based data, remote sensing and even robotics, but then main is the drones and drone-based data. These are most of the manufacturers, service providers, NGO partners, academics within India who are supporting our cause. Across the world, as I told you, we are almost 30 flying labs now, and these are mostly localized to the global south. And the idea is to shift power from the global north to the global south and make the technology more accessible to the people who need them the most. Now, the main areas that we work on are healthcare, disasters, conservation, agriculture, youth engagement, and sustainable development. And this is how the Flying Labs frameworks generally looks like. We really believe in building the local skills by providing hands-on training, increasing the local impact by doing projects for social good, catalyzing the local businesses through business incubation programs, and supporting the local innovators. And this is how we facilitate the development of local ecosystem. We even work with the local governments to support them in the policy making, wherever the policies are not there for the drones at all. And we bring drone education to various countries where again the drone education is not available, licensing and the professional programs, advanced programs as well. So what I have done in the last 2 years, each of the projects that you see in front of your screen, the Project Caerodrome, UAV Rapid Response Task Force, Project Wings, and Drones for Daughters, each of it was born out of a reason. Project Caerodrome, obviously, as I told you, where you realize that it's an ecosystem problem, where you have to develop a lot of skills to work on each of the drone posts that you're talking about for healthcare. You need to work and train a lot of local drone pilots and drone engineers. Now, why I mean local is because most of our engineering, or let's say your engineering hubs, are focused in Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, probably Gurgaon. But this is not where you really require technology. Technology is required a little away from these cities, maybe 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers from these cities. And not many people want to work there. That's going to be a problem. Where you want the technology, you need to have people from those places to be trained and empowered to do that. For example, tomorrow, if I want to have a drone, let's say in Himachal, people from Himachal, the youngsters from Himachal, should be trained into drone pilot flying, as well as, drone flying, as well as drone maintenance. This is extremely important. Project Aerodrome is solving that problem. UAV Rapid Response Task Force was again born out of a similar situation. We were in Odisha, and we were trying to respond to the cyclone there. And you just saw what's power of local. But in India, local is not enough. You need to be hyper local, because even in Odisha, I was an outsider. We needed things from Odisha who can understand the local language, the local culture, knew the local places very well, take the lead. Not me, not any of us coming from either Delhi, Bangalore, Chandigarh, or Mumbai. No, none of us. We need people from Bhubaneswar, Puri, or different places in Odisha to take the lead. Similarly, every vulnerable area within the country, we need to empower the local teams to do the same thing. So we teach them about drones, we teach them about data, the drone-based data. We teach them about analysis of this data and how to make meaningful reports out of it. We teach them about ethics, safety, and responsibility of drone flying. And we also teach them about team building, communication, and coordination with the local authorities. Project Wings was born because when you realize that, okay, fine, we will learn everything, but what about the generation which is about to come? You just saw from everybody's discussion, you're talking about artificial intelligence, and we're talking about IoT, electrical vehicles, but the kids tomorrow would be really learning this and leading this from front. How do we prepare these children tomorrow? And that is happening in Project Wings. And the idea is to make drone education as easily available as the computer education we had in 1990s, and to bring it to various schools. Now, Drones for Daughters was born because whenever I was going in different conferences, I was probably alone over there. you had suited men, and the only girl on the panel was just me. I didn't like this equation, and I wanted to change this equation, and that's where the Drones for Daughters was born, to have more women leaders in the drone industry who can do it in their style, in their unique style. I'm not saying that men are wrong or bad, but I'm just saying that women representation is equally important because women are different, and when they come in, they bring in their own personal qualities into the project. So this is the range of things that we do with drones: training, projects. We organize various working groups, and we conduct events like webinars, seminars, conferences. Let's talk about the main topic today: making a difference with drones. Now, how to apply drones for social impact? Number one, do no harm. Safety first. This is extremely important. I'll just quickly go through this list before I show you the real life examples. Stay legal. Wherever you are, in whichever country you work with drones, it's important to know about the local laws and comply with them. Don't try to go against the laws. I remember one of the professors had told us once, he was not a professor actually, the regional director of Airports Authority of India, who said that fly as high as you want, but always remember the law will always be above you. So always respect the local laws wherever you are and follow them. Stay relevant. Relevance is very important. Don't fly drones if they're not really required. If the same project can be done using, let's say, satellite data, do it. If the same thing can be done much better by door-to-door collection of data, do it. If the same thing can be done better by still images taken from your camera, do it. Drone images only if it's extremely relevant and important. Why? Because I don't know how much you guys know about drones, but drones collect extremely sensitive and high resolution data. And this data could be as accurate as 1 centimeter. So we don't want to reveal a lot of the personal identification information in this particular thing. So we want to restrict drones to only relevant areas. Even when you do that, stay extremely ethical, because the communities that you're working for do not really know these technologies, and you would come in like superheroes there with your drones and try to take the pictures of their houses, and they may not understand everything, but it's your duty to explain them that these drones are collecting these images and this is how these images will be used. Get a consent before you do that, and always remember to ethically use the data that you collect, destroy it after a certain time, and ensure that it is used only for the purpose that it was collected, and it is not misused for any other reason. And always collaborate. This is what I have done in my journey. I could not have done so much without collaboration with all the partners. It's not possible for anybody on any particular team to do everything which is required in a vast industry like drones or disasters or conservation. You need to collaborate with different experts, and you should be open to do that. Localize a response. As I said, what we learned in Odisha is always looking for the local experts. If there are no local experts, create local experts, create the local power circle there, and ensure that you are passing on the information back to them, giving them the relevant training so that they don't need you as often. Now, for some startups, it could be a matter of existence or survival, but trust me, you will be much more respected if you do this. And when you are creating technologies, a few things that you should remember is whatever technology you create, manufacture drones, manufacture electrical vehicles, electrical tractors, or whatever you're trying to do, or even the local battery packs that you're talking about, make it affordable, accessible, make it available to these communities that really need them. What's the point of having the drones available in Switzerland but not in Mohali? You know, you need it there. When you need it there, you need it there. You have to make it available. How to make it available? That's the supply chain issue that you need to solve as an entrepreneur. Ensure that your technologies are easy to learn. As you must have seen in the picture where I was with the children. Now, these children are from a tribal village near Mumbai. Now, they have to learn your technology, and they may not really be extremely trained in English or in technology itself. So if your drone or your application or your controller or your app on your phone is as simple as a Facebook or a WhatsApp, it can be done by anybody, then that's the technology you should be going for. And make it really simple. In the back end, it could be extremely robust and intelligent, but in the front end, it has to be simple. It has to be extremely easy to deploy. It shouldn't take 3 suitcases for you to carry your technology to the place where you need to deploy it. It has to be as tiny as possible, as lightweight as possible, as easy to just plug in and play as possible. Because when we go and work in disasters and humanitarian situations, we really cannot carry the load with us. Please realize that. We need to have it portable, lightweight, very simple. It shouldn't have too many tags, like a huge antenna carrying along, or like a big vehicle as a generator to be following you. That's not possible. Try to make your technology extremely easy to deploy. Make it locally manageable. This is very, very important because you cannot always keep exporting your technology just to get it repaired. If you break a wing, if you lose a part, you cannot keep waiting for those couriers to keep coming in and out. No, you can't do that. You need to make your spare parts locally available. And I'm very glad to share with you that a couple of startups that we are mentoring, we are asking them to focus on these local spare parts availability. Why? Because this will help India to become more self-reliant and resilient in the future, and we become less dependent upon the exports from any other country. And I really believe that this is kind of knowledge pool that we have, and you can see it even in this panel. We can really make it in India, and what our Prime Minister says is absolutely true. We should make it in India as much as possible. And as far as the quality concerned, we should learn quality from Europeans, from Japanese, and try to bring in that quality in our products, that they do have the respect internationally as well. Locally maintained, as I told you, the same thing. Now for the drones, we have a vision, just the way you have the local repair shops for motorcycles or for bicycles, you need to have local repair shops for drones as well. Just the way you have local repair shops for mobile phones and for televisions and for washing machines, you need to have local repair shops for drones as well. Till that happens, we really need to start developing the ecosystem for that as well. And as engineers or as future manufacturers or future innovators, take it as a responsibility to really do that. And locally owned. Now, many times we see, especially in drone industry, we have foreign drone companies coming in. They come in with their drones, they do a particular project, and they go away. They don't leave anything behind them. When you need them again, they will again become extremely pricey and come down and act too smart and try to do a particular project. But this is not sustainable. To make any technology sustainable, you have to have local ownership. So figure out how can you make the local partners into your project who can own this technology and use it and scale it to solve their local problems. That's extremely important to think about. Now, once we have these ecosystem questions figured out in our minds, let's look at the real life case studies from various partners that we have within India, across the world, and some of which even we have done. So the major application of drones that we see these days is changing. Now, the old farmers are all retiring, and we don't have the youth coming and taking over these farms from their parents. This gap is going to create a huge problem. Robots, drones are an extremely interesting way of luring the youth back into their farms. And to, if they don't want to make their hands dirty, don't worry, you always have farm robotics who can do that. Digital land boundaries. Now, this has two important implications, especially in India. This is an image from Africa where this thing was done, and drones and drone-based data can be extremely useful in marking the digital land boundaries. And what we have learned from them is that drones can give you certain amount of this data, which you can you get very high grade, high resolution images or maps. Now, what we need to do is go back to the communities, go from door to door and ask them to mark it out for you, because they know their farm boundaries much better than us. Now, for example, you will even see in this particular screen in this farm, you have this kind of a land which is green as well as brown. So drone can help you take the picture, but marking these boundaries, it has to be the local farmers and the local farmer communities to tell you that this land belongs to me. Even though it appears different on the drone image, it has to be coming in from the communities to tell you where to mark the boundaries. And this digital data is extremely important in crop insurance, especially after disasters when the claim has to be made by these farmers and they have to be compensated for their losses. And also for just land ownership, the rights and the ownership. So this becomes a kind of your passport or your ration card, a digital ration card for your land, a land proof. Crop health analysis. Now, precision agriculture is going to be on a forefront. And what I mean by that is when you look at an image like this, you can figure out where are the strained crops and where are the healthy crops. And this can help in targeting only these specific crops for disinfection or for pesticides. So this avoids the misuse or abuse of pesticides or overuse of the pesticides and prevents additional harm to either the crops or the farmers. Precise pesticide and insecticide spraying, this again complements the previous slide. It's once you have figured out, like if you have large land, and once you figure out this is the part of the crop that needs insecticide, and there are algorithms which can calculate the exact amount of pesticide that you require and exact type of pesticide that you require. According to that, you can have these spraying drones come and do the work for you. A lot of GIS experts are using irrigation and drainage models to plan the drainage systems along large fields, especially in countries like Europe where you have large farms. Pest monitoring. The drones with infrared camera or the night vision camera have been extremely useful in keeping an eye on the farm, especially at night, where you have the pests coming in. If it could be animals, it could be rodents, it could be anybody. So that's one way of monitoring the pest using drones. Evidence building for insurance claims. When you have a before picture, before the disaster, and when you have an after picture, that match could tell you that exact damage which has happened because of disasters like cyclones, storms, floods. So having this data with the government is extremely important. And I'm very happy to share with you, government of our country is launching something called Swamitva Yojana, wherein pan-India, the drones will be flown in all the villages, wherein just to give you the digital land data of every land boundary that you have over there. And this is, again, the aim is to have these things possible. Study of invasive species. I was not working alongside, just having a conversation with a botanist. And invasive species is becoming an increasing concern with the botanists, because when you have an invasive species coming into a territory, it really takes over the biodiversity of the entire place. And drones can really help you figure out these invasive species, because once you have figured out what the species looks like or what the plant looks like, that data could be fed into an AI system. And with that machine learning, you can actually map out all the invasive species in this particular area. And this really helps the researchers not just understand what's happening, but even formulate strategies to avoid or to solve this problem. Study of forest cover monitoring and illegal logging, and this, especially in South America, our partners in Peru are doing it for Amazon rainforest. And they are able to monitor the forest and even monitor the illegal logging which is happening over there. Not just illegal logging, illegal mining, illegal sand mining, all of these are extremely easily monitored using drones and satellites as well. Wildlife monitoring, the best application is one when you have this kind of a raw data where you can see these wildlife in your drone images. A nicer way of doing that is tracking these wildlife using the RF tags on their ears or on their bodies. So you have an RF tag on the animals, and then you have an RF sensor on the drone. So together it creates an algorithm and shows you where exactly your animals are distributed in the entire forest. Human-animal conflict, especially in our northeast areas, even in Nepal. So drones are being used to avoid the human-animal conflict, and they inform the humans that there is an animal around, and they also create a kind of annoyance for the animals so that they avoid coming into the human territory. This has been experimented with to some extent, and so far it's been well received. Study of aquatic plant species. A lot of underwater drones are also used, as well as the aerial drones, in studying the aquatic plant species. We have our friends in Australia who use it for coral reef monitoring. And those case studies are available on our webinars as well. Sharks and whales, again, aerial drones are used to track the sharks and whales, especially along the Australian shores. They have kind of created an alarm system there, wherein the drones are on a ship and they are keeping an eye on the sharks and the whales in that area. And they send an alarm back to the coast, wherein if there are swimmers, then they know about it and they keep away from the shores. Underwater drones are again used for monitoring the biodiversity within the sea, and these have been extremely useful. Now, this is a robotic boat which is made in India by a team called Sagar Defense Engineering. And this is made by Sagar Defense Engineering, and this robotic boats are used to keep the water clean. And this project was actually during the Kumbh Mela, wherein they were keeping the Ganga clean and clean the water from all the flowers and the petals and the leaves. And this boat can carry about 3 kilograms of filth and bring it back to the shore. And then you can empty the entire basket and send it back again. Glacial lake monitoring. These are our partners in Nepal who are doing the glacial lake monitoring and monitoring the lakes for any cracks to avoid any kind of flash floods. With solar farms, now we know that India is targeting a lot of solar farms in India. So drones with infrared ability are able to monitor these solar panels for any kind of cracks or damages. And the reason why they do that is because the cost of maintenance can be extremely high. And a crack in time saves 9 is the philosophy that they use. And it's important to keep track of every crack which develops so that you can repair it early, because the damages can be expensive if they really increase. Similarly, windmills. Now, windmills are really high. Have a look at tiny malfunctions along the edges. It's extremely difficult. The drones are very useful in doing that. Similarly, we are a lot of our partners are using drones for monitoring of telecommunication towers, and they're also using it for bridge monitoring or for the railway, the cables that you have along the railway line or even the railway tracks. So this has been used in India to a large extent, and this has been really promising. Now, vaccine distribution. I have a small video here which I can show you. And this is in Vanuatu. This is a project done by UNICEF. And UNICEF is actually doing it in various countries. They're doing it as pilots initially, but then they go on to do it as large-scale projects. And drones have been extremely helpful in reducing the accessibility divide for vaccines. So the challenge with vaccines in these countries is that you need to have vaccines delivered on a particular schedule. But what happens is sometimes the roads are so bad that you can't even get there on foot. So generally what these people do is they carry the vaccines on their motorcycles or on the backpacks or even the horses or even donkeys. But when you can make their life much easier by having drones, and that's the aim of the whole project. Similarly, Brandon Products. Now, this is one of the most famous companies in drone cargo delivery, and that's called Zipline. And they're doing it in 2 countries in Africa now. And they paradrop their products in this box, and that's where the healthcare workers collect them. So these drones are fixing drones, and they don't land at the delivery site. They just paradrop it, and then they return. So the benefit is that the drone can be extremely quick in doing that and return very quickly as well, because if it lands and it takes off, it takes a lot of time. And also you need to train the people at the receiving end to launch these drones back to you. So when you don't have that kind of thing, you can avoid training more people and you can just maintain one facility in the center. Now, this is what we had done in Amazon rainforest again with the team in Peru. And this was a drone which was not a really fancy drone. This was a locally made drone joined by duct tapes and by thermocol pieces. But this actually did the work of covering the distance of which would have otherwise taken 6 hours in a boat in just 30 minutes. So this was extremely useful, and they were trying to demonstrate how snake antivenoms can be delivered and even other medical emergency drugs. What we learned from this project was that the technology need not be fancy, it should just work. Similarly, in Europe, this technology is being tried out for atrial, it's called an atrial emergency defibrillator, AED machines. And these machines, so the drone is designed in such a way that it has the machine inside it. And they are experimenting how useful it can be for saving lives in various places. Organ transplant was again experimented with in North Carolina in US, and it was successful. Now, how to scale it up is a challenge. In India, Apollo is taking the lead in ensuring that we had green corridors dedicated to the drone for organ transplant, especially. And initially, they would be connecting their existing hospitals. But organ delivery is still a little far in our vision. Initially, we're just experimenting with regular medical deliveries. And the government of Telangana is taking a lead in this project. And very soon we would be having experiments being conducted in India for the medical deliveries. Lab samples. Now, lab samples, this is a project in Switzerland, which is done with Swiss Post and Martinet. But we also had a lab samples, I don't have it here, but the lab samples are being delivered by the Nepal Flying Labs in at least 2 villages in Nepal over the last 1 year. And what they do is they have trained the local nurses and the local health workers in operating these drones. So once the health worker demands a drone, the drone is sent from the facility to this particular village. Then the community worker attaches the box of the collected samples of potential TB samples into it and sends the drone back to the lab facility. Now, the lab processes the samples and sends the reports on the same day. So this has really reduced the load. This distance would have otherwise taken about 5 hours on road. Now it takes just 15 minutes. Now, mosquito control, this is an interesting project that was done in Fiji. Now, instead of killing the mosquitoes using pesticides, which again, some countries are doing it using drones, even in India, it's been tried. Now, what they do is they have modified mosquitoes, genetically modified mosquitoes, which are infected with a particular bacteria. That bacteria doesn't allow the transmission of mosquito-borne diseases like Zika or dengue or malaria. So what they do is they release these mosquitoes in the ecosystem, and these mosquitoes interact with other mosquitoes and pass on the infection to them. And that's how the entire mosquito population in the area is becoming now resistant to mosquito-borne diseases. Now, this is a very successful project which has been experimented in various countries, including South America. But now what they want to do is do it with drones, because otherwise they would just have bottles being sent from door to door, and they would engage with communities and explain them why this is important and ask them to release it in their backyard. Now, with drones, it's becoming extremely easy because you can release about 6 lakh mosquitoes in one shot. So what they do is they put the mosquitoes to sleep by lowering the temperature, and then they take them to a particular height. They raise the temperature to a particular limit wherein the mosquitoes are again active. Then they're released in the atmosphere. And this recently we released a report of how effective this method has been. As I told you about disasters, not just response, but even mapping the vulnerability before a disaster happens, drones can be extremely useful in that. Response again, now this was what we did in Maharashtra. So Maharashtra, we have very active teams who have learned with us, and now they're ready to respond to disasters. And we did it in Kolhapur, we did it in Thane, in Bhiwandi, in various places. Detecting survivors, again, infrared drones have been extremely useful in doing that, and we are really recommending that for the emergency and the fire brigade in our country. And we are also trying to see if policies can be made around allowing these teams to use drones as soon as the emergency happens without waiting for the further approvals. Damage assessment, as I told you, now drones and drone-based data combined with artificial intelligence is extremely useful in classifying the damage as well. You can have minor damages, major damages, and complete damages being classified using AI. And this really reduces the task of the team, and it also brings in accuracy and transparency to the whole project. Reconstruction monitoring, this was done by a team in Nepal when the earthquake had struck there, and they were able to recreate the whole damage scene using the drone data, a 3D model, and this really helped the authorities decide or plan out the reconstruction. even allocate budgets, allocate teams, make a whole plan. Community engagement, this is again from Nepal after the earthquake had struck. So not just mapping the whole community using drones, they also engage with the local communities and share the printed maps back with them and ask them to mark out various buildings that they think should be looked at. And the communities came together, they marked open places, the hospitals, the clinics, the schools, any building which would have vulnerable population like older people or children, and they got into it like a team. So teaming up with community is extremely important during disasters, making them a part of the solution, taking them along with you. Flood monitoring and rapid assessment. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side, generally after floods, after a heavy rainfall, you have a cloud cover. So even if you try to take a satellite image, it's not really useful. And but when you fly a drone, you could be as low or as high as you want. And this really helps in monitoring the floods. Flood impact analysis and flood modeling is one big application which GIS professionals use. They generally do it with the satellite data, but drone data has become extremely useful in doing it more effectively. Landslide monitoring. Now this is again Nepal, wherein our teams in Nepal use it for, they still are doing it in one of the villages in Nepal. They just came back from there in Dolkha, and they monitor these landslides. They recreate or reconstruct the landslide. And this really helps in planning the population, what do you say, relocation, the relocation of the population which is living along the landslide vulnerable zones. And this is something which even we can think about, because now, so after the Kerala floods, landslides have become like really frequent, especially in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. Same thing, rapid assessments and rebuilding plans. Sewage clearing. Now this is one team which was in Kerala, which had come up with this huge robot for cleaning the sewage. Now, this appears bulky, but I'm sure with more innovation, it can become more lean. Land rights, I already spoke about it. Land management plans. Youth empowerment is something that we have to really think about. Wherever we go and work on our projects, we ensure that we are interacting with the local children so that they see what we are doing. They get inspired by what is being done, and then they can even plan or dream about drones in the future. So encouraging drone in the STEM education is one important goal that we are really looking at. And not just for boys, even for girls, this is very important. And we have seen that when we bring drones to even tribal populations, wherein they have never seen a drone before, and when you give them a drone, an educational nano drone like a Tello, they really feel excited, and they fly it absolutely comfortably and conveniently. So we really need to remove the fear from the minds of children that technology is something that you cannot touch upon, or you cannot fail, or you cannot crash them. We are also looking for more drones. Now, DJI Tello is one which we like, but we don't want to depend on. We're looking at the Indian models as well, which could be deployed in these situations. And I would really love to see if any of you have these kind of crashable drones which can be used by the kids and for education. And the only thing that we want is, one, when it crashes, it does not break. Second, when you launch it, it does not quiver. It has to be stable. Stability and crashability are the two things that you're looking at, and of course the affordability. So I really encourage you to be a part of it, and I really would love to stay in touch with all of you. Do join us, our mentors group on Facebook, for if you want to be mentoring these little children from schools and colleges and learning and teaching them about different technologies, especially drones and robotics and AI and IoT and sensors. Come along. You can join us as consultants and knowledge experts. You can join a rapid response task force and get trained in using drones and drone-based data for disasters and emergencies, and share your technology with us. We really love working with technologists. Whatever technology you have, see if it can work in some of our projects, and we would love to introduce you to all our partners in India as well as internationally, and then you have the opportunity of working with 30 countries at the same time. So this is our proposition to you, and we would really love to hear from you. I'm available on my email as well as on my LinkedIn, and you can follow us on various social media. Love to see you around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for highlighting this real life use cases of drones. It was indeed an informative session.
You're welcome.